Imagine you're handed like $200 million to make a sci-fi action movie.
That is quite the budget. A lot of pressure.
Right. And your studio bosses, they expect the classic Hollywood sequel formula. More explosions, more aliens, more planets, just a massive expansion of the cinematic universe.
Exactly. You go bigger, that's the rule.
Yeah, but what do you actually do with that budget? You spend it making a messy, deeply intimate family therapy session, but like disguised as a neon-soaked space opera.
Which is a wild pivot.
It really is. So today we are diving into the 2017 Marvel Cinematic Universe hit, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
A fascinating movie.
Yeah. We've pulled together this massive stack of sources, including a really detailed Wikipedia article that covers the production, the plot, visual effects, all of it. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack how writer and director James Gunn completely defied those typical sequel expectations.
Right, because instead of just going broader, they went smaller. We are dissecting a film that functions as this incredible case study in contradictions, really. Because on one hand, you have this unprecedented technological canvas, a movie pushing the absolute leading edge of digital effects and 8K camera tech.
Yeah, featuring a literal living planet.
Exactly. But on the other hand, all of that massive scale is entirely in service to a deeply human story. It's about trauma, abuse, and the really difficult reality of choosing your family.
Right, because the natural instinct for a surprise mega-hit follow-up is just to cram in as many new characters as possible, set up the next 10 movies.
Which is what everyone expected.
But the creators actively fought against that instinct.
Yeah.
They chose this path of basically subtraction by addition. They hit the brakes on universe building right out of the gate.
Yeah, and you really see that deliberate restraint in the timeline. Volume 2 takes place just 2 to 3 months after the events of the first film.
Which is so fast.
It is. In the landscape of cinematic universes, sequels usually jump ahead like a few years to show the team fully formed, operating at peak efficiency.
Right, skipping the messy stuff.
Exactly. But Gunn rejected that because the team's egos were still incredibly fragile. If you jump ahead, you skip the difficult work of these broken people actually learning how to live with one another.
I'm looking at the original drafts, and they left some massive things on the cutting room floor just to maintain that focus. Like, Gunn originally planned to include Adam Warlock in the main script.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And for anyone who follows the comics, Adam Warlock is a massive cosmic entity. But Gunn cut him out of the main story entirely. He basically just relegated him to a brief post-credits tease for Volume 3.
Which is a bold move.
Right. Wait, from a studio perspective, isn't that just leaving money on the table?
Yeah.
Like, fans were heavily anticipating that character. How did he convince executives to toss out this highly marketable character just for the sake of pacing?
Well, he argued that adding another major cosmic heavyweight would just fatally dilute the emotional arcs, especially for Peter Quill, Gamora, Nebula, and Rocket.
Because there's only so much screen time.
Exactly. The script was already introducing Peter's father and the empath Mantis. Gunn recognized that the core appeal of this specific franchise isn't really the lore, it's the emotional attachment you, the audience, have to the main characters.
That makes total sense.
Right. Cramming Warlock in meant sacrificing time spent understanding, say, why Rocket constantly pushes people away, or why Nebula is so consumed by revenge.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to me, this approach completely mirrors a band recording their sophomore album.
Oh, how so?
Well, imagine a band whose debut was this massive, stadium-filling rock anthem that took the world by storm. For their follow-up, instead of bringing in like a 70-piece symphony orchestra and a gospel choir to artificially top themselves...
Right, the usual escalation.
Yeah. Instead of that, they basically locked themselves in a small studio and record an unplugged acoustic set focused entirely on their childhoods.
The unplugged analogy works perfectly. It really highlights the vulnerability required to pull this off. In an interconnected franchise where every movie is traditionally burdened with setting up the next massive crossover event, this film deliberately isolates itself.
Which is a huge creative risk for a $200 million blockbuster.
A massive risk. But Marvel allowed Gunn a remarkably wide berth. They let him focus entirely on the mystery of Peter Quill's parentage, rather than forcing in a cameo from another franchise hero just to sell merchandise.
And speaking of Peter's parentage, achieving that specific emotional beat actually required a bizarre corporate trade.
Oh, the character rights issue, yeah.
Yeah. In the original comics, Peter's father is an emperor named Jason. But Gunn hated that idea. He wanted to use Ego the Living Planet. The hurdle, though, was that Marvel Studios didn't fully own the cinematic rights to Ego,
Right, 20th Century Fox held those rights as part of the Fantastic Four package.
which is wild. And Gunn actually wrote the script, assuming Marvel had the rights.
He did, yeah. When he found out they didn't, he admitted it would have been nearly impossible to swap Ego out for another character because the entire thematic structure of the movie rested on Ego's specific nature.
So what did they do?
To save the script, Marvel actually approached Fox with a trade. Fox wanted to alter the power set of a character named Negasonic Teenage Warhead for the Deadpool movie,
Right.
which required Marvel's permission. So Marvel agreed, but only in exchange for the rights to Ego.
So they literally traded a moody teenager for a godlike planet. That is just an incredible bit of Hollywood negotiation.
It really is.
And because the script wasn't bogged down by establishing future franchise villains, the actors had the breathing room to shift the family dynamics entirely. Like Gamora and Nebula finally confront the shared trauma of being raised and tortured by Thanos.
Right, they actually get time to talk it out.
Yeah, and Drax reveals a profound innocence beneath his brute exterior. And Yondu, the space pirate who abducted Peter, he takes on the role of Peter's true father figure.
And that Yondu arc, that was a massive narrative pivot that came pretty late in the process.
Wait, really? What was the original plan?
Originally, Gunn toyed with the idea of having Gamora sacrifice herself at the end of the film.
Wow, that would have been dark.
Extremely. The story naturally demanded a major sacrifice, and Zoe Saldana had initially expressed some hesitation about playing the character for a full decade.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But Marvel pushed back, insisting on saving Gamora's fate for a future Infinity War storyline.
Ah, of course.
So that forced Gunn to reevaluate the climax. It led him to realize that Yondu sacrificing himself in the vacuum of space to save Peter was actually the far more devastating and appropriate emotional payoff.
It totally recontextualizes their whole antagonistic relationship from the first movie.
Exactly.
But, healing generational trauma isn't just about the adults resolving their pasts. Sometimes a fractured family needs a literal blank slate, like someone completely innocent for them to protect.
Right, a way to project and practice their new family values.
Exactly. Which brings us to the massive risk Gunn took with Baby Groot. Marvel was highly skeptical about losing adult Groot, right?
Oh, very. He was the runaway merchandising hit of the first film. The studio initially saw it as just throwing away a proven commodity.
Yeah, like why mess with success?
Right. But Gunn needed a character who was learning as he goes, basically forcing the rest of the team into a parental role. And bringing Baby Groot to life required some really fascinating audio engineering.
Because Vin Diesel came back to do the voice, right?
He did, but if you simply take a deep voice and digitally stretch and pitch it up in post-production, it sounds synthesized. It gets warped and loses all its emotional resonance.
So how did they avoid that artificial chipmunk sound?
Diesel had to manually perform the voice in a much higher register, but while speaking incredibly slowly.
Wait, like deliberately dragging out the words?
Yes. He delivered the lines at a sluggish pace so that when the audio engineers sped the track up to normal conversational speed, it naturally pitched up by 7 to 9 semitones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it did it without causing those time-stretching digital artifacts. Plus, because of the film's global release strategy, Diesel actually recorded his variations of I Am Groot in 16 different languages.
16 languages. Doing that slow, high-pitched thing every time.
Every single one, repeating that exact slow process.
That is serious dedication.
Yeah.
And the physical performance for Baby Groot is equally wild. Like in the opening scene, while the rest of the team is fighting this massive interdimensional monster in the background, Baby Groot is just dancing to Electric Light Orchestra in the foreground.
Classic scene.
And the motion reference for that dance was James Gunn himself.
Really?
Yeah, he spent a full day on a massive soundstage, shot from 5 different camera angles, just dancing to give the animators a physical baseline.
That is amazing. But, that dedication to tangible specificity, it permeated the entire physical production.
What do you mean?
Well, the technical advancements in Volume 2 weren't just about making the aliens look cooler. They were specifically designed to remove the physical barriers between the actors, their environment, and the audience. Like, take Drax's makeup.
Oh, right, because in the first film, Dave Bautista sat in a chair for, 4 hours?
Yep, 4 hours every day. But for this film, the makeup team engineered a new application process that cut it down to just 90 minutes.
That's a huge improvement. Although I heard removing it was completely miserable.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah, Bautista had to sit in a sauna at the end of every shoot day just to sweat the prosthetics off
Hmm.
because the chemical removal process was apparently too abrasive for his skin over a long shoot.
Can you imagine just sitting in a sauna to melt off your alien skin? But the prop department operated with that same philosophy of grounded realism.
Right.
Russell Bobbitt, the prop master, he fabricated a 1-to-1 scale 10-inch physical model of Baby Groot.
Oh, so they weren't just acting to a tennis ball on a stick.
Exactly. It wasn't just for lighting references. The actors used it as a physical puppet to interact with, making sure their eye lines and emotional reactions were tethered to something real in the room.
That makes such a difference.
It really does. And for the Ravager Syndicate, the team built over 15 different steampunk-style weapons from scratch. They were scavenging parts from old radios and cell phones just to outfit a cast of over 85 actors.
That's incredible. They even went as far as creating edible props to avoid, bad CGI eating animations.
Oh, the stink bug scene.
Yes, there's a scene where a Ravager eats an alien stink bug, and the prop team molded that insect out of solid chocolate and then injected the center with black honey.
Gross, but effective.
Right, so when the actor bit down, the dark honey burst out on screen. It gives this visceral physical reaction that you just cannot get from asking an actor to bite into thin air.
It's that level of obsessive detail that really grounds the absurd sci-fi elements.
Completely. But I want to pivot to the absurdity of the main villain, Kurt Russell, as Ego. I mean, he's a celestial being, right? A literal living planet who projects a human avatar.
Yeah.
He traveled the universe, seducing women, planting seeds across thousands of worlds, and he explicitly tries to use his offspring as batteries to consume the universe and turn every planet into an extension of himself. So given all that, isn't he the ultimate, most literal manifestation of a narcissistic parent just taking over their child's life?
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how that sci-fi exaggeration perfectly captures the psychological reality of generational trauma.
How so?
Ego literally believes he is the only thing in the universe that matters. He views his children not as autonomous individuals with their own desires, but solely as tools designed to expand his own ego.
Hence the name.
Right. It is a brilliant externalization of a narcissistic family dynamic.
I mean, he confesses to giving Peter's mother a terminal brain tumor, simply because his genuine affection for her was distracting him from his grand cosmic purpose.
It's horrifying.
He destroys the mother to isolate and control the child.
Which is exactly why Yondu's sacrifice is the thematic anchor of the film.
Right.
Think about it. Yondu is essentially a trafficker, hired by Ego to retrieve these children. But when Yondu realized Ego was murdering the kids who didn't possess the celestial gene, he kept Peter.
He broke the cycle.
Exactly. He broke a toxic, systemic cycle of abuse. The entire narrative is this really intimate exploration of surviving abuse and finding redemption. Yet, the canvas they use to project this unplugged acoustic set is the most technologically complex digital environment ever created at the time.
The contrast is just staggering. I mean, let's look at the camera technology alone. Volume 2 was the first feature film to ever shoot using the Red Weapon 8K resolution camera.
Which was basically unheard of then.
Yeah. Now, usually, when a production wants massive IMAX-level resolution, the trade-off is a massive, bulky camera that requires the crane and really limits how close you can get to the actors.
Yeah, they're huge.
But the cinematographer, Henry Bram, he actually rejected the standard Marvel cameras because they were just too heavy for what he wanted to do.
Bram was chasing intimacy. He met with the camera manufacturer, Red, and they revealed this early prototype of the Weapon 8K.
A prototype on a $200 million movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It offered unprecedented visual data, allowing them to capture the incredibly vibrant neon color palette of the film without losing detail. But the camera body itself was remarkably small.
That's the key.
They spent 3 months collaborating with Red just to prep that single prototype for the rigors of a massive film set.
And the reason he needed a small camera is brilliant. If you have ever tried to shoot a video inside a cramped car, you know you can't fit a tripod in there.
No, it's impossible.
So Bram used a handheld dolly rig called a Stabili. They built these physical, claustrophobic spaceship cockpit sets, surrounded them with massive video panels to cast realistic moving light onto the actors' faces, and then shoved this tiny, ultra-high-resolution 8K camera inside on a handheld rig.
It's crazy.
It's like strapping a GoPro to an astronaut. They used the most advanced, mathematically perfect sensor available simply to capture raw, shaky human spontaneity.
And the irony there is profound. A film dedicated to exploring the messy, imperfect, irrational nature of humanity required the most pristine, mathematically perfect digital tools to exist.
Holy.
Like, consider the design of Ego's planet. The visual effects team at Weta Digital didn't just paint a landscape. They generated the inside of Ego's planet using mathematical formulas known as fractals.
Which James Gunn called the biggest visual effect of all time, claiming there were over 1 trillion polygons.
A trillion.
How does a computer even process 1 trillion polygons without just crashing the studio's entire mainframe?
Well, they utilized a specific geometric concept called Apollonian gaskets.
Okay, what is that?
Imagine drawing a large circle. Now draw 3 smaller circles inside it so they all touch.
Okay, track.
Then draw even smaller circles in the empty gaps between those. If you repeat that mathematical rule into infinity, you create a fractal pattern.
Oh, wow.
Because it's based on a repeating mathematical equation rather than an artist manually sculpting every single rock and crevice, the computer can generate infinite, organic-looking complexity. It creates an environment that feels both biological and entirely alien.
And the digital wizardry wasn't just reserved for the environments either. Lola VFX, the studio famous for pioneering digital de-aging, they had to wind the clock back on Kurt Russell for a sequence set in 1980.
And they did an incredible job.
They did. They didn't just smooth out his wrinkles. They used his actual performance from the 1980 film Used Cars as a baseline. Then they brought in a younger stand-in actor named Aaron Schwartz.
Right, because of his facial structure.
Exactly. Schwartz was chosen specifically because his jawline and the way his facial muscles moved when he smiled matched Russell's perfectly. So they essentially blended the two performances together.
It's a phenomenal achievement in visual effects, but it's also a testament to the sheer scale of resources at their disposal. I mean, multiple top-tier visual effects studios, Framestore, Weta Digital, Method Studios, Animal Logic, they were all collaborating simultaneously.
It takes a village.
Truly. Framestore even completely rebuilt Rocket Raccoon's digital model from the ground up, engineering an entirely new fur simulation and a much more expressive eye rig just to handle the subtle emotional beats the script demanded.
Which brings us to the visual effects detail that absolutely breaks my brain. Weta Digital had to create a partial digital double of David Hasselhoff.
Yes, the Hasselhoff cameo.
There is this split-second moment where Ego loses his temper and shapeshifts into Peter's childhood idol. They fully digitized Kurt Russell so the environmental effects would stick to his body during the fight, but for that one fleeting visual gag, they had to partially build a digital Hasselhoff.
Dedicating that much computer processing power and artistic labor to a 5-second David Hasselhoff joke is just staggering.
It really is.
But it highlights a unique challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a film dealing with profound emotional trauma, featuring a 1 trillion polygon fractal planet, 8K resolution, and a digital David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
The marketing department had to figure out how to clearly communicate that tone to a global audience.
Right. How do you package all of that and sell it to the masses?
By leaning heavily into the soundtrack and just trusting the personality of the characters.
Because the music is undeniably the heartbeat of the film.
Mm.
Awesome Mix Volume 2 wasn't an afterthought layered on in post-production. Gunn built the track list directly into the script from day one.
He knew exactly what he wanted.
Yeah, he knew exactly what emotional beat corresponded to which 1970s rock anthem. The composer, Tyler Bates, actually wrote and recorded portions of his orchestral score before they even started filming.
That's so rare.
It is. Gunn played that score on set so the actors could move and perform to the exact rhythm of the music.
And that creates a completely symbiotic relationship between the auditory and visual experience. The marketing team recognized that this blend of retro music and sci-fi visuals was their greatest asset.
Absolutely.
They partnered with Doritos for a promotional campaign that perfectly encapsulated the film's spirit.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Listen to the execution of this promotion. Doritos manufactured limited edition bags of tortilla chips that featured a built-in rechargeable cassette tape deck player.
Built into the chip bag.
Built into the bag. Because of advancements in microtechnology, they were able to embed a lithium battery, a headphone jack, and an audio chip right into the cardboard packaging. You plug your headphones directly into a bag of chips, and it plays the entire Awesome Mix Volume 2 soundtrack.
It is so delightfully absurd.
But it's the perfect metaphor for the movie itself. Guardians Volume 2 is cutting-edge, highly advanced technology disguised as a piece of cheap, retro 1980s nostalgia.
The marketing was brilliant because it sold an atmosphere. Marvel and Disney correctly diagnosed that audiences weren't coming back for the lore. They were coming back for the family.
The vibes, basically.
Exactly. Look at the teaser trailer featuring the song Fox on the Run by Sweet. It didn't explain Ego's master plan or outline the stakes of the universe. It just showed the characters bickering and interacting. It sold the vibe.
And it worked.
It became the largest Marvel Studios teaser ever at the time, hitting 81 million views in its first 24 hours.
And the Super Bowl spot followed the exact same playbook, generating the most Twitter conversation volume of the entire game. The film even scored a perfect 100 in Marvel's internal friends and family test screenings.
And that internal confidence translated directly to the box office. The film grossed over $863 million worldwide, easily surpassing the original.
Which is huge.
It proved that this highly specific, bizarre, tonal mix combining high-concept fractal sci-fi, retro 70s rock, and deep, intimate emotional resonance was a globally viable formula.
It really is a monumental achievement in balancing tone. So, to wrap up our journey today, we have unpacked how Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 weaponized groundbreaking 8K camera prototypes, trillion polygon fractal equations, and pitched-up tree voices, all to tell a surprisingly grounded story about the difference between a biological father and a true parent.
They stripped away all the mandated universe building to focus entirely on a group of damaged, defensive people learning how to let their walls down and heal together.
Beautifully said.
As we close, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought about the villain's mechanics. Consider Ego. He's a godlike celestial capable of manipulating matter on a planetary scale.
Right.
Despite all of that immense, seemingly infinite power, his entire master plan is completely dependent on his offspring. He cannot activate the seedlings and reshape the universe without Peter's genetic power.
He needs him.
He does. Ego attempts to manipulate Peter by telling him he is offering him a grand purpose, a divine destiny. It invites us to look at our own world and ask, how often do powerful institutions, systems, or even parents disguise their demands for your conformity and control as simply giving you a purpose, just as Ego did?
Oh, wow.
It is a stark reminder to always question who actually benefits from the destiny that others try to lay out for you.
That is a brilliant and heavy thought to walk away with. It turns out whether you are examining a jagged white line on an X-ray or staring down a massive neon-soaked living planet, the absolute hardest thing to accurately diagnose and heal is still the human heart. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.